Hey, hi everybody, welcome. Okay, so we'll wait for a few more people to join, but meanwhile, super excited to have this webinar today. Um, we have stellar speakers, Morgan from Okta, Megan from Google Cloud, and Itzan from Cornerstone. Super happy to have them. You can say hi.
Hey everyone.
Um, it's great because it's actually a webinar by customer marketers for customer marketers. I even took down like an app where I can do claps. There you go. So really excited to have this session. I would ask that if you have questions, we aggregated a lot of questions and answers early on, so we'll try to answer some of them. No way we can answer all of them. But if you have more questions, please put them in the Q&A, not in the chat. That way we can manage it better. That's one kind of ask that we have. And the recording would be sent for everybody when this is probably tomorrow. The Q&A questions, we'll try to answer them later on. So, I mean, we'll basically create a page with all the questions and answers and send it all the questions and answers later on. The slides that Morgan, Megan, and Itzan are going to share, if whatever their organizations and they feel like that they're okay to share with publicly, we'll also share those later on. So everything that we can share, we will share this week. And I think with that, we'll probably start. So again, super excited to have everybody here. Our topic today is reference management, best practices, challenges, and pro tips. And again, we have amazing speakers today. Each one will take us through their journey in reference management. So this is going to be interesting. Quickly, just to review, when we talk about customer marketing, for those of you who might be new to customer marketing or kind of just thinking how does this all come together, we look at customer marketing as kind of everything post-sale with your customer base. Today, we're touching reference management. Our previous webinar was about community. Our next webinar is probably going to be about reviews. So we're touching different topics, but there's a lot of pillars in customer management because in the customer's lifecycle, there's a lot of things that you want to do with them around advocacy, growth, references, and whatnot. So that's kind of what we're talking about. A little bit about the industry. Again, for those who are not following, we love to share that. So a few trends we've seen, and actually we're going to run a poll in this session. I'm going to ask you if you've seen anything change during COVID. That's one of the questions. We would really love to learn that and share that in the next webinar. But some of the trends that we've seen, at least, is that some companies are more focused on lifecycle marketing. Here's an example of a position from DocuSign, and you can see it's customer lifecycle manager. So like that's one thing trend we've seen. We've seen customer marketing organizations a bit focused on upsell, ROI, so more towards revenue retention sometimes, during this kind of pandemic era. And we've seen a big uptake on positions, 2,000 positions. This is amazing. This is great. So I think that many organizations understand that tech B2B companies understand that customer marketing is a great tool to also influence retention and whatnot. So this is super exciting. For those of you who don't know us at all, Crowdvocate, so just quickly, we're a vendor in the space. We're kind of, my disclaimer, we're helping to build a category. So there's a Slack group. If any of you is a customer marketer and not in the group, feel free to reach out to us and we'll have you join that group. It's for practitioners to help other practitioners. So that's great, just like this webinar. We have these events like the webinar, and we love connecting peers. If you want to connect to somebody that we can help, we'll do so. We have an industry job board. We're now launching an expert zone. And if any of you is writing blogs and content that you want us to spotlight and highlight, we're also happy to do that. So really happy to help whatever we can do in this industry that is growing and blowing. That's one more thing. Next webinar, so just so you know, I mentioned we're going to have a webinar about review strategies and what do you do with reviews and insights on that. We're going to have a webinar about customer experience and product marketing and how they align. And we're going to have a webinar building and growing your advocacy program. So these three are going to come up in the next 6 weeks or so. So keep tuned. I think with that, let's dive into our topic today. So I'm going to surprise at least some of you, I hope. This is a research by Gong. They do sales calls, recording and optimization and recommendations and whatnot. And they have something called Gong Labs. They did a research on 3 million sales minutes, and they came out with this kind of, dazzling conclusion. Don't use references in the first call. Why would they say that? And why would I mention that on a call about reference management? So what they really said is that, the problem is that references are spectacularly misapplied. And I'll explain what they mean. They show that if you don't use the right kind of reference, it's better not using them at all, right? You're killing more deals on the first call if you're using a bad reference. What do they mean by a bad reference? So because Megan is here from Google, I'm going to use them as an example. So for example, let's say that I'm a manufacturer in Germany. If you're going to give me Google as a reference, I'm going to say, wait, but Google is a tech company. They're huge. They're in US. I'm a manufacturer. I'm mid-size. I'm in Germany. That doesn't relate. Maybe I need to go to another vendor that has worked with manufacturers in Germany. So for those who are in the reference space, I'm sure you know this, but basically Gong really researched and they found that many salespeople don't apply this. And in many cases, they kind of screw up the first call and the deal just because they mention names and mention references that are very vanity names, again, like Google, like Nike, whatever, but they don't provide value to that specific prospect, and they actually harm the deal not knowing so. So again, we can send you the link to this research by Gong as part of the collaterals. I really recommend you understand it and also share it with your sales team. And we're going to learn from Nitzan, Morgan, and Megan how to do references better, hopefully. Just a word about CrowdLocate. So, I mean, if it's relevant to do reference automation, we do that. We can both use our AI to basically auto-nominate people for references and also nominate people from your CRMs, help you understand win-loss reports, and help you understand if your collaterals, whether it's sales references or marketing references like customer stories, are actually effective, which ones are helping you close deals. And we believe that that just helps make the reference process better. And at the end of the day, we want to help customer marketers understand their advocacy audience, understand their results in ROI, and build, revenue-oriented customer marketing. With that, I finished. And I'm going to move the wand to Morgan, who's going to go first from Okta. Then we're going to have Nitzan from Cornerstone. And last but not least, we're going to have Megan from Google. I'm just going to also launch a poll here that you can do while we speak, 10 questions, and we're going to have 20 winners win cool audiobooks of your choice. I'm done with that. So thank you again for joining. Let me move sharing to Morgan. You're on, Morgan.
All right, thank you. Hi, everybody. My name is Morgan. I lead the customer marketing team at Okta, which has been a company that's been pretty quickly growing over the last few years. And I'm here to tell you today about how we've delivered reference at such a high growth company. For those of you that are not familiar with Okta, we are an identity management company. And so what that means is if you think about all the different apps and technologies that you need to easily access throughout your day as an employee or as a customer and consumer, Okta makes that easier and more seamless while also being secure. So, here we go. Since customer marketing can mean many different things depending on who you're speaking with, I thought I'd start off by just giving a little overview of what customer marketing means for Okta. So my team is responsible for driving our customer advocacy and reference program. So that means recruiting and onboarding references, driving customer content such as case studies, videos, securing customers to speak at events. Also in all the different types of announcements that we may make across earnings and press releases. We've also been doing a little bit more in terms of peer review platforms such as Gartner Peer Insights and Trust Radius. Of course, sales references, everyone's favorite. And then also making sure that we're tapping into our customers for feedback across the organization, whether that's providing product reviews, customers in cabs, meeting with our PMM teams to talk about our go-to-market messaging, et cetera. So this quick video or photo on the slide is highlighting how we sometimes pitch our customer stories to customers. So one of the things I thought I'd start off by talking about today is how we've actually gone about building the team at Okta around customer marketing. Today, we're a team of 5, and there's many different ways that you really can approach how to build out your team. And we've kind of changed our approach throughout my time at Okta. And what we ultimately decided was, let's focus it on what I like to call our advocacy pipeline. And really thinking about it similar to a marketing pipeline where you have a lot of different people at the top, and then you work and filter them down to some of your most valuable opportunities at the bottom. We've thought about, how we can split them across maybe key company messages, sales territories, the type of products that our customers use, or even the different types of requests that we receive. And we've done a little bit of all of those options throughout the years. And so I kind of will walk you through that and tell you kind of where we've landed. So to start, I first joined Okta in 2016 and was kind of the one-woman show managing all these different requests. When I first joined Okta, we did have a little bit of an advocacy arm in that we were building testimonials and case studies, but we didn't really have a formal program in place. So that's one of the first things that I did when I joined. From there, I brought on the first member of my team. It was a pretty inexperienced hire. So what we really decided to focus on is how we can do things such as low touch opportunities, such as building our program, which we coined the Ozone. Also thinking about user group and speakers and how we can build better relationships with them, and really getting her more experience so she can take on more opportunities in the future and just really gain experience. From there, as she gained experience, she really kind of owned all of the core different reference asks and opportunities so that I could focus on our key target accounts and biggest opportunities such as keynotes for different conferences. And we had someone else that was really focused on onboarding and nurturing customers. So, and also building a really close relationship with our sales teams, managing sales requests, figuring out who are the best customers that we can go after and bring into our advocacy program. After that, Okta continued to expand, and we especially focused on some of our international markets. And so we also took a regional approach on top of that. We hired someone to join our team in EMEA out of our London office, and also started to put a bigger focus on our APAC accounts as well. And then here we are today, and we've stuck with those same things, but then also really expanded the team to also focus on 2 of our core products, which is workforce identity and customer identity. And that's freed up my time to really be more of a people manager and focus on some of those key focus opportunities, but really enabling the team to do most of the work and how we can continue to scale our operations. And they can do a lot of the really exciting activities and building relationships with customers. What I really like about this framework is that it really has a sole person building the relationship with the customer once we get them on board and interested in the advocacy program, so that across all the different asks and opportunities we may be reaching out to a customer for, they have that single point of contact. It makes it really easier that the customer knows who they're working with, they can build that relationship, and who to go to for each of those different opportunities. Also, now that Okta is ready to go, one of the things I wanted to share with you about is how we are repurposing customer content. And we've really put a big focus on this, especially this year when people are extra busy and maybe don't have the bandwidth to take on as much and do a full-fledged case study with us. Now that everyone's a little bit more busy and has less time on their hands. So one of the things that we've been really trying to do is, with this little effort from the customer, get as much of the story as possible. So we've been doing things like building infographics following a case study. This one on the far left with Cengage is one that we did after we did the full case study with Cengage. We actually took one specific angle of their story and really focused in on that. And it's great to pitch the audience as well of, hey, you don't have to read the full case study, just spend 1 minute and you'll get a lot of lessons learned from this customer. Another type of infographic we did was focusing on one of our core go-to-market initiatives, which is around zero trust. And we picked a handful of customers that were doing it well and highlighted them in this infographic and promoted it across our blog. I think we've also seen a big uptick in virtual events this year. And what makes that great is it's really easy to record the content that you might have not necessarily been able to record for an in-person event. So we can get even more out of that content. So for example, we can create sales slides like this one for WebTech, or we can create blog posts like what we did for Takeda and Notre Dame that really extends the reach of the customer story beyond the event and maybe those that didn't take the time to attend. And also creating mini videos. So you can see in this Takeda one, as part of the blog post, we actually pulled a couple of quotes from their session during the event into a short consumable video. And my last lesson learned that I will share with you is, some of the key relationships at your company and with your customers that really make it easier to drive this content. So for example, one of the relationships that's really important is the executives at your company. They're the ones that are building relationships with customers way beyond just these marketing asks. And I would encourage you to go broad, go beyond just your CMO. Think about all of the folks across your product team, your customer success team, the people that are implementing the product. They've really helped your customer when they're in a pinch, and they have ongoing relationships with these customers and multiple touch points. And so they can be great stakeholders to actually help make that ask rather than you reaching out blind to a customer. And also, as we're asking our executives to help us, make it easy for them to make this ask. One of the things that I constantly do is actually draft a ghost email for our executives to send to their contacts. Of course, they can personalize it in their language, but it makes it much easier for them to send, and also making sure that you're providing all the necessary details on the opportunity and how you want to get the customer involved. Also, the corporate comms teams from your customer I have found to be invaluable. When you're asking a customer to participate in different opportunities, a lot of times they are the middleman needing to go to their corporate comms team to see what is possible. So if you can build that relationship and establish that trust with their corporate comms team, make them know that you have their best interest at hand, you're going to run the content by them and really be a true partner and stakeholder for their company. It just makes it much easier for that customer to say yes. They don't have to spend the time chasing down their corporate comms team. A lot of the times it's easier talking marketing folks to marketing folks. You're speaking the same language, and you're not relying on the customer to put it at the top of their to-do list to go talk to their corporate comms team. So those, I would say, are some of the key lessons I've learned as Okta's really focused and put a huge priority and emphasis on using our customers across all of our different sales and marketing collaterals as well as events, and hope you all find that helpful.
Cool. Thank you, Morgan. So right on time. Amazing. So while Nitsan gets ramped up, I have some questions for you, or audience has a few questions. So first of all, Fergal was asking, how do you add references in areas where you don't have that that many of them? Maybe it's an industry that finance not willing to speak, or cybersecurity not willing to speak, or I don't know, enterprise versus SMB, or Japan versus US. But how do you get those first references in places that you don't have them?
Yeah, I think one of the important things is to really not just rely on yourself to get those references, really provide visibility across the company on, hey, here's our pipeline and here's who we're going after and here's why it's so important. And think of it as a pipeline. Provide weekly updates to some of your key stakeholders on, hey, this is a key initiative for us and here's why we need to go about it. So for example, if we just recently had a public sector event. Public sector is historically hard to get to agree to different types of opportunities. So we had standing meetings with our public sector team, because we can only do as much work as they are building the relationships and introducing and identifying customers that are willing to work with us. And so if you go at it alone, it's much more difficult than if you can get the whole team on board and really make it a group effort.
Okay, cool. Another question from Tyler. Would you be willing to share an example of ghost email that you mentioned?
Yes, I definitely can. Are you asking I guess, for how I wrote it or like the actual email template? I guess I'm a little confused by the question, but um,
I
I
think just
essentially
giving
will.
more color into what that actually means, I guess.
Okay, perfect. So I will, as if I was if I was our CEO, I would write an email to the account rep, or I'm sorry, I'd write an email to the customer as if I was a CEO and then send it to the CEO to say, hey, Todd, we're really working to get this customer on board. I know that you had a recent executive meeting with him. Would you be willing to reach out? Here's a draft. And that way our CEO really just has to copy and paste it and send it and then loop me in to follow up on next steps.
Cool. Okay. Another question is, do you have, this is from Selena, do you have a formal customer reference agreement with your customers to sign, or is it more kind of, gentleman agreement or gentlewoman agreement?
We go through both approaches. So during the sales cycle, we definitely ask customers if they're willing to be a reference. And we have a handful of clauses such as, can we use your logo? Can we mention you in sales collateral? Are you willing to participate in a case study or a press release? We find that a lot of times, especially our biggest customers, aren't necessarily going to agree before they see success with the product. So we definitely will also circle back with customers once they're live and see how we can partner with them. And when we do that type of an engagement, we don't necessarily have a formal contract in place. We will work together over email, make sure that they know how we're going to share the content afterwards. And then we just keep the emails, we save them in Box so that we can always refer back to them if needed.
Okay. And last question for you, because we do have to move on. So there's more questions. And again, I'm sorry that we can't answer all the questions. We'll take them. Other questions, we'll answer them offline. Okay. We'll send the speakers questions and answer them offline because we want to move on. But from Crystal, one challenge we've been having is closing the feedback loop after a customer asset acquisition. How are you guys handling this piece? I think that what she's asking, and if not, she can correct me, is that after you provide a reference, how do you actually close the loop and know that it was given and if it was good or whatnot? Like, do you have any measurement to follow up on those activities?
Yeah, that's something that we can definitely improve on. What we currently have in place is we always track reference participation. So after the call takes place, we'll circle back with the rep saying, hey, I want to confirm that this took place. And if you have any feedback on if the reference was successful, please let us know. And then we also do track of all of the reference calls that did take place, which of those deals did close as a way to see if it was effective or not. Of course, there's many other things that can go into that, so it's hard to give a yes or no for sure, but it's at least helpful to at least have that measurement.
Cool. Okay. So again, we'll take other questions later on. There's 100 people online, so Morgan, imagine that they're clapping their hands. Thank you. And now Nitzan, you're on.
Okay, so hi everyone. Let me just share my screen. So, my name is Nitan, and I am the reference program manager for Cornerstone EMEA, which means Europe, Middle East, and Africa. I've been working for Cornerstone for the last 14 years almost, but in this role, I've been doing for 3 and something years. This is my journey. So first of all, to answer some of the Q&A questions, and I know I start from the end, but I've seen some questions from Wendy and Claudia on how do you track who you have utilized recently to not overuse them. So we have a CRM system called Salesforce.com. And this is where we keep our client base, our client accounts, and also the contacts. This is the same place also where our salespeople are submitting reference requests. So in terms of submitting the request and then following later on the request, this is all done in the same place. So every time someone submits a reference request, I can track back to who has already done some references for us, what happened, the whole interaction with that contact, the account health, and all of the information that I need. So we're actually closing the same loop because we're using the same CRM for references, for our client base, and for our prospect. So this is an example of a reference request form, and you can see a few of the questions that I'm asking, which is how many calls do you need, how many solutions or products will you need the referee to talk about, and which ones, the due date, and so on. But then in the process, as soon as I receive the request, I actually set up a phone call and ask the salesperson for the context of the deal, for a little pointers so I can match, and this is what Gal has mentioned, so I can match the best referee for the opportunity. And this is a crucial part of fulfilling references. So back when I started 3 years ago, we had someone in the US doing all of the references globally. I was brought in only to do the EMEA references. And I see Megan is already smiling for the first bullet. The first challenge that I saw was, this was the Wild West, and I'm sure you can all relate. Salespeople do not have patience. They need to close deals, and they need to do it fast and efficient. And before I came in, what we had was salespeople using their own portfolio or their own connections again and again and again for all of the references. This is harming in a few ways. One of the ways is that you're overusing some of your clients, you're burning them out, and you're not necessarily providing them, they felt used in sometimes. An additional problem with that is when you only use 2 or 3 referees, you're not doing the best match that you could between the prospective client and the reference client. But they were doing this because this is the only way they knew. Another challenge is to know the client base. So I needed to know all of the clients that we had in order to match the best match between the prospective client and the referee. And these 2 challenges actually led me to use the help of the client success managers and the client executives or account owners in order to know who's going to be the best referee, which made the fulfillment of reference requests be very delayed. It took a lot of time. And as I said, salespeople don't have time nor the patience. So we started thinking about solutions. And the first solution was to actually have all of the client success managers and account owners push back people when they ask them in the Wild West, to push them back to me for the formal process. But as you know, you need to show value in order for the people to actually stay with the formal process. The value would be a best match reference and within the lowest time possible, so quick. And as Morgan and Megan can probably attest, you're only good as your last performance, right? So if you've done the 3 great references, but the 4th one, you're going to lose them. So you need to keep the level of service very, very high. Another solution was to document any feedback that I got from the client success managers and account owners back into Salesforce, so I have it for the next time. And this, and also a project that we've created to actually know what each and every client of ours is doing in specific details, so industry mapping. The result of the above was going for a cut of 2/3 of the time for fulfilling reference requests. So it takes 1/3 of the time to fulfill a reference request right now. But in terms of quality, I understood another thing, which is you cannot start looking every time a reference request comes. You need to have your own pool of advocates that you could use and you can trust. And this is why our client advocacy program was actually initiated by our marketing department, but I kind of partnered with them to use the same client advocacy program in order to get the best results and to get references fast. And I think Eran has asked in the Q&A, where we as reference management sit as departments. I know in a lot of companies, reference management sits under advocacy in the marketing department. For me, I'm actually under the sales operations department. So I support salespeople under sales operations, but I do partner with marketing, and I do use the marketing program, the advocacy program, to my own good. And our client advocacy program, we've initiated that as soon as I started the role. It actually works like a freaking flyer miles program. So every advocacy act that you do, you accumulate points, and then you can redeem the points for awards. Now, the awards could be starting from a box of chocolates sent to the office. It could also be services that you get from Cornerstone for free. And it can be a very popular award that we have in years that we do not have COVID, which is a free pass to our Convergence. This is a conference that we do once a year for prospective and existing clients, and lots of content and lots of buzz and so on. So how do I use the advocacy program, and how did it help me? One staggering example, I started using the advocacy program by putting a hook into the emails that I sent to request for a reference. And I put a hook and I said, listen, if you want to do this reference for me, you can accumulate points and you can redeem them next for Convergence tickets, for example. I then, as an example, got an email back saying, hey, you said VIP Convergence tickets, how do I get that? And then I get an email back and explaining to them how could they get additional Convergence tickets for free. The result was that. Now, this person specifically, in the months before Convergence, did between 5 and 7 reference calls every month. And he could actually get a delegation of 5 or even 6 people for free at our Convergence based on all of the advocacy acts that they've done. So it's a win-win situation. I could ask him for any references that I wanted, and he would automatically say yes because he's accumulating points for Convergence. So that was a nice example. But in addition, I also keep them warm in other ways. And I think someone in the Q&A requested or asked about how do you close the loop. So I run reports monthly, and I see how many, or the deals that we have won if we had a reference request or a reference call that was done. And if we did, I send them an email, a thank you email for the deal that was won. I think for Gal, you asked how to keep references engaged when you don't get asked a lot. So as opposed to the previous example of how this person did a lot of reference requests, this is an example of how you keep them warm, even if they only do one reference call a year. Another way is the personal touch. So for my top advocates, I have them in LinkedIn. I know when their daughter is graduating school. I know if they have any challenges in their work and in their project. And I'm really keeping them warm by keeping engaged and knowing what the account is going through. So personal emails for like that for an example. And of course, Happy New Year and so on. There's another strategy that I'm not using, but I know is very successful, and it's sometimes sending snippets of information that is useful to your clients, just so they see your email address in their inbox, and they have a little something for you that's beneficial to them. It didn't work for me. I couldn't find something that was generalized enough for the whole wide audience that we have, all types of industries and cultures. But sometimes it works. It depends on your client base. So this is a stand that we have done at Convergence 2019, where you could still meet people face to face. We had the champagne going from 9 a.m. We were the only one with booze, so that was a great hit. But in addition to the champagne, we also have, you see me holding a tablet. People would fill in a form to go and become advocates. And in this form, I would ask questions that are pure gold for reference management. So I would ask them, what languages do they speak in addition to English? I, I got Korean, I got Ukrainian, Russian, all types of languages that were submitted that I didn't know about. And if you do have someone needing that language in a reference call, this is pure gold. All of the people that submitted and enrolled to be an advocate, we then threw a raffle with prizes, and they would win prizes, and it was also showed in Twitter. This was a very nice buzz that we had around Convergence. We actually accumulated 50 new advocates, so 50 new advocates during Convergence with this stand. Last thing that I do, and this is how you really keep your clients warm with little to no budget. Martha, you've been asking about this in the Q&A page.
Nitzan, just last minute, so.
Okay. So because I have connections to all kinds of departments, I'm 14 years in Cornerstone. When someone has a technical problem, I know about it and I help with the case escalation. When someone has a project, I offer them Cornerstone University hours, speaking with an expert. This is something that costs money. We give it to them for free. Even time swap, administrative time that they are going to be spending on reference calls, I would offer for an engineer to do that administrative task instead of them, so they could get free for the time swap, Convergence, free passes, and so on and so on. So I'm trying to be really involved in all of the life cycle and challenges of the client, and not only ask them for references, but also give the added value. And I think the personal touch means a lot in here. So that's that. Any questions?
Yeah, a lot of questions. Again, we won't answer all of them. So first of all, thank you. By the way, Morgan, Megan, and Itzan, the Q&A, you can see it. So if there's questions that you want to answer in the Q&A later on while you're not speaking, feel free to answer those and close those up. Okay, so I think, Nisan, first of all, the tip about the languages, I love that. That's a great idea. But let's look at a few of the questions here. So I guess one question was, and you mentioned it a bit, but how do you get sales to nominate more people? And like, how do you help find more people to have in the reference pool? You said that you have to have those 20 or 30 people that are your go-to people. And how do you find those? How do you get sales to collaborate, and give you those people initially?
So that's a very good question. And I know that CrowdVocate is doing this in an automated way. We're doing this in a more the more conventional way, or the more personal way. I have a close relationship. My allies are the client success managers of accounts. I have regular calls with them. I speak to them. We map their client base, and I know exactly what are the challenges that each geographical area, are going through. Who are the clients that are struggling? Who are the clients that are really happy? And this is how we target them. I invite them later on to a WebEx session. I explain about the advocacy program, and I enroll them. But actually, after a first reference call that has been done well, I then kind of leverage this relationship up and ask them for more and more, and also give them more and more warmth.
Cool. So I don't know if this, like, if you do it, and again, maybe somebody else can answer it later on, but this question came from Martha as well. Like, she was asking, how would you find influential references? So maybe somebody that is known in the industry, so not just your classic references by, I need somebody from a bank or somebody from cybersecurity, but actually somebody that's more of a, celebrity in the industry, right? Your Kim Kardashian, whatever.
So actually, we're fortunate enough, Cornerstone is fortunate enough to have the leading companies in each industry. And we have great, great companies. I cannot mention them right now, but you can go to our website and see the great logos. It is always by relationship. When your client success manager is really taking care of these people, they would also be able to return the favor Once they do that, you start building the relationship. This is exactly as any unbranded company, even the big brands company. As soon as you have a good relationship, you could get them on board.
Okay, last question, and then we'll move to Megan. So is there a consent form? This came from Lisa. So is there a consent form that you have for people who are doing reference? Can you use their logo? I think also Morgan touched that, but I mean, what is the legalities that you do around, getting their consent and what they're willing to do?
So I think Morgan also said that they could be better at this. We could also be better at this specifically. We do have something within the initial contract that is asking whether we could use their logo and so on. Um, um, if they're not specifically agreeing to that at the beginning of the contract, they may agree to that after they see success, just like Morgan said. We then go with, again, more of the personal consent. We're not signing them off on anything. But we do have relationships with them. They see success. They see what we're doing for them. They want to do the same for us. And then we enroll them to the client advocacy program. Like I said, we have the booth at Convergence that we enroll people. So it becomes like more inclusive or more.
Okay, great. Thank you very much. Again, I'll get you applause also. And Megan, you're up. Keep on the questions. Michael will answer. We'll have even 10 minutes at the end to answer more questions. And if people want to stay a bit longer to have more questions, we'll do that. Thank you, Nitzan. And you're up, Megan.
All righty. Just sharing my screen. One moment, please. Are we all good?
Yes.
Okay.
Thank you, Megan. Thank you for using Zoom and not Google Meets. We're not going to tell anybody from Google management about this.
Well, yeah, we'll keep it quiet, Here, I'm just going to go ahead and click to the next slide because that was just my introductory slide, but a little bit about me. Before I came to Google and before I was in customer reference marketing, customer advocacy, sales references, all the great names that we have for all of the jobs and all of the hats that we all wear on our teams or as one individual as a team. I was in sales operations and in inside sales. So I believe that, the relationship building and understanding the customer and what value that customer marketing can bring to them really came from my sales background. I see a lot of my peers in the space maybe coming from a sales or a sales operations place. So as we all are building our teams, there isn't a major in university for customer marketing. So when we're looking out there for people that we want to build our teams with, you might find individuals in types of roles like inside sales or SDR or customer success manager that want to get into marketing. And this is a really great way to do that. So I think that's just one of my tips as you're growing your team and you're not, maybe there's not an individual who has the perfect resume for customer marketing. There are definitely skill sets that you might find in sales or in field marketing or in customer success that tie directly into the things we all do every single day. So that's my first unsolicited tip. But as we're growing our team, and I know everyone's hoping to grow their teams, because a lot of the time, like how you started out, Morgan, you're a one woman or one man or one person shop. And it's a great way to look out there for additional team members. Here at Google, we are lucky to have a fairly robust customer programs team. And that's what we call ourselves. We call ourselves the customer programs team because we embody customer references, sales references, brand campaigns, as well as all other customer programs that we can dive a little bit into. But at Google Cloud, we really like to think that solving for problems or challenges or obstacles is in our DNA at Google and Google Cloud. We know that our customers have really great ideas, and we have the technology to help our customers solve for their most important challenges. And on the customer programs team, it's our job to help our customers be storytellers. So one time when we were kind of thinking about, hey, what should our team name be? One of the things that popped up was storytellers, because we really want to be the enablers of our customers to tell their story. And Google Cloud is just a supporting character in the act, really. So that's really what our mission is here on our team. And what does our team look like? I mentioned that we are lucky to have a robust team because I've come from organizations where I was the only person, or it was one of my roles and several other, I wore several other hats, or maybe I had one other person and we were, doing the best that we could to manage all of the demands that come to customer reference, right? Here at Google Cloud, we really break ourselves out into 3 pillars. We have our marquee program, our scaled program, and our sales reference program. Our marquee program, we like to call it this because it's really dedicated to this one-to-one or white glove service. People like to use that term to create really high impact storytelling opportunities for our customers. The customers that participate in this program, they might be, your top industry, they may be your top customers in your top industries, right? We can, if you were going to think about the telecom industry, maybe 3 names in North America come to mind. So it's customers like that where we believe that we can create really high impact opportunities for them to tell their story publicly. And on the other side of the fence, we believe that they can help us, spread their success and influence maybe potential customers, prospective customers, or current customers to grow their footprint. And as we're working with customers in the marquee program, we really like to build a robust co-marketing partnership with these customers. We really want it to be a 2-way street. We don't want it to be ad hoc, reaching out to customers. Can we use your logo here? Can you speak at this event? Can we reference you in this blog post? We really want to sit down with this customer. And Morgan mentioned having a really strong relationship with the comms team at your customer. That's my go-to person. I want to sit down and say, hey, comms team, what are your brand objectives? What are your marketing objectives at XYZ company? And how can we create co-marketing opportunities to meet those needs, and so that you can tell your story through our co-marketing opportunities, through our campaigns. And like I mentioned, it's all about you, Mrs. or Mr. Customer, and we're just a supporting character in the cast. And when I say high impact storytelling opportunities, it's all of those things that you think of, right? We do case studies, we do technical white papers, we create films for our customers. We have Google Cloud Next, and this year it was Next on Air, where we want to create those tier 1 speaking opportunities. But we also want to think out of the box with these customers. And we like to think about, thinking 10x. What's the art of the possible? Could we do something really innovative and, out of the box with this customer? If they're a car company, can we do something really interesting and cool with their car? Can we feature them in some special way? If they're a grocer, can we get in the store and interact with their customers? So just thinking about out of the box ways where we can help our customers brand shine through our co-marketing activities. Our scaled program is just that. So if the customer is not in the marquee program, we have so many customers and we have to keep up with the demand. So it's really a way to meet the scale demand for all of the co-marketing and asks that we have coming from all of our stakeholders. And we'll get to our stakeholders in the next slide, but it's a way to meet logo requests, fulfill blog requests, create case study slides, all of those things that are super important to tell the customer story, but they just take a little bit less of the white glove service, and so that we can really figure out with groups of customers how we're going to tell their story through this scaled approach. And we have an individual who manages this team, and she uses automated systems to help her do that. And then finally, our third pillar is, and some might think the most important pillar, which is sales references, because of course, we have to tie all of our goals to our company goals. And once again, we'll talk about that in a few minutes, but we really want to be able to help influence and drive pipeline and opportunities and close deals. So we must have a robust program, how we're helping fulfill sales reference requests. We want to be able to accelerate the sales cycle with reference support with our customers, our happy customers, to have peer-to-peer conversations with current customers to grow their footprint, or prospective customers. And those 3 pillars make up our strategy. And just as a little, nod to our EMEA friend here, we have a global team. we have an Amer team, we have a LATAM team, an EMEA team, and one person who's, really leading the charge in JPAC, because each region has not only different languages, but different ways in which they should be interacted with. And we rely on those regional experts in EMEA and in JPAC to understand those nuances so that we are respecting our customers every single time we interact with them. So who are our team stakeholders? We talked about our 3 pillars. All of you, we all have so many cross-functional teams that we work with in customer reference, right? We have our external stakeholders, of course, which are our prospective customers who we're trying to help through sales reference, but also our customers. Our customers are almost our end customers, right? We want to make them happy. We want to tell their stories. We want to respect their time and what's important to them. But our internal stakeholders are some of those people that we're managing every day. And I have little red flags on every circle because there are things you really need to watch out for as you're managing your relationships with your internal stakeholders as well as your external ones. Our stakeholders are sales, maybe it's customer success, account management, and sales executive leadership. We have marketing. So of course we may sit in the marketing org, but we also work every day with our comms team, with our partner marketing, with field marketing, with brand, and then product, right? Because we want to be able to tell and show our product success through co-marketing as well. And all of these stakeholders internally come to our teams, right? With requests, with demands, with asks, because we want to have customers as a part of everything we do, but we have to manage all of our stakeholders properly through our processes. And I like to say that, every team has best practices, but we should set the best practices with our internal stakeholders, and then we must enforce them. And without best practices and enforced consistent best practices, we won't have a consistent, seamless process for our external stakeholders. We need to set strict SLAs. We should have request processes and enforce them. It's so simple to have someone email you and ask you, hey, can this customer participate in this blog, right? But we always have to turn them around and say, please submit a request, a reference request through our tool, because we must track all of these processes. And that helps us understand how many times was this customer used in a request, or how many times was this type of request made. That helps us with resourcing. It helps us understand where the needs are, but it also helps with reference fatigue for those specific types of customers. I would recommend having a hub, even if it's a Google Doc, some place on your intranet explaining what are all the processes, where are the request forms, where are the tools and dashboards for the customer reference team, so that I can understand how I should work with them. I can understand their SLAs so that we can have a seamless internal process, which will then create a seamless external process with our customers and prospects. And really, we also rely on our stakeholders, even though they're asking us for so much and we're managing all the red flags and the speed bumps. We should rely heavily on our stakeholders to help us prioritize what we should be doing in our customer programs, right? Sales helps us understand which customers are happy, which deals are closing, what stories are ready to tell. Marketing creates opportunities for us, right? Digital events, blog posts, opportunities for, technical papers. Sometimes those are brought to us, and they are really great opportunities to tell our customer stories. And product, right? We have product launches. Let's have customers participate in those. We have, product webinars where we're talking about this and how we're using this product, and we can help plug customers into each one of those opportunities. So we rely on our stakeholders heavily so that we can prioritize our needs and resource out where we need customer reference managers sitting.
Megan, 3 minutes.
We're getting there. And then our goals, right? So what are the goals for your team? You've got a lot of stakeholders, you have your pillars, maybe you're a one-person shop, but you should have goals and they should align to your company's goals, right? Here at Google Cloud, our goals are, we want awareness, we want engagement, we want to accelerate sales and the sales cycle, and we want to improve customer sentiment and relationships. And I have a hashtag at the bottom that we internally use all the time, which is, customers everywhere. We want our customers to be a part of everything that we do. So how can we make that possible? And we use our goals to help us do that. we want to have highly engaged customers, and we want to track that. We do that through giving customer engagements a point system, right? So we actually can have metrics to show how engaged a customer is. If there's a customer in the marquee program that has a very low engagement score, why is that? How can we improve that? And if there is a customer with a very high engagement score, how can we emulate that through other customers? For the scaled program, if we have, a lot of customers in retail participating in programs but not manufacturing, how can we better understand why we have low engagement metrics in those specific industries? And then, of course, we see success through market consideration. Are we a market leader? Are we thought leaders? Do our customers trust us and trust our brand? We should be able to validate that through the customer stories that we tell, both in peer-to-peer conversations and in case studies that are seen on our website. And then I'll return to it, as I always do, influencing pipeline and influencing sales. Let's tie all of our success to those dollar amounts that really show how successful our sales are being. Let's be a part of that. Let's celebrate that. And then once we have happy customers spending money, we also have happy customers that are willing to speak for us externally. We believe those are correlated. So let's set our goals and measure success upon those. And then few quick things that we all know. What's in it for the customer? Because there's a lot in it for us. This is our jobs. We want to be successful. We want our internal teams to be successful. But at the end of the day, we are advocates, champions, and the protectors of our customers on the front lines through customer marketing. We want our customers to be thought leaders. We want to help them attract top IT talent if that's one of their goals, by showcasing them as an amazing place to work in technology. Talking about Google Cloud. And we want to just showcase that they have chosen transformative technology, but also that they're solving for their most challenging topics with this transformative technology. So we never want to forget, at the end of the day, we want to bring value back to the customer, even when we're creating value for ourselves. So I'll stop there. And I'm sure there's some questions to answer, but sorry, I went a little bit over there.
No. So first of all, thank you. I love this last slide about, what's in it for them. I think it's very important. And I think it's very important to emphasize that it's not just about getting a reward, a gift card or whatnot. So you actually outlined here everything that's not a direct reward, which is amazing. First of all, so I don't forget, we still have 90 people online. Thank you again. And then, okay, so we'll take 5 minutes. If whoever can stay overboard, that's great. We have a lot of questions. So first one for you, Megan, would be, and this came from Kimber. So I don't know if you do that. If not, maybe Morgan or Nitzan can answer that. But regarding win-loss or win leads, like she was asking, how do you manage ever-growing reference win leads? For example, competitive win reports, alliance partner reports, niche product reports, Fortune 500 reports. So I guess her question is how do you take the wins and then also kind of segment them through the different, subtypes of reports that you want later on to use if you do that practice?
So just to clarify, if we have an internal win report that's surfaced internally, how do we then take that and move it along the cycle to then become a public reference?
Correct. Yes.
Sure.
And segmented through a lot of different subsegments, right?
Right. So we do have a win, we call it our win wire. We have a win report process. And when something that we do on the customer programs team is when we see a win pop up, it will be, all the solutions and the products and the use cases are spelled out in that win report. So if they are a marquee customer, we'll reach out directly to the key account director and loop in the product and solution leads that are a part of that win so that we can start building out a robust plan to how to tell the story, right? So you can't always tell the whole win story in one piece of content. So that's why we want to pull in our cross-functional teams to find opportunities to tell each phase of the story. We want to pull in our partners, our solutions, and our product leads. I hope that answers the question. I don't know if I fully did.
Okay. Another question that came both from Neela and Sadaf regarding, I think, something we all know, reference fatigue or customer fatigue. So how do you deal with the fact that maybe everybody wants to talk to this person, right? But you can only ask him that much. What do you do with that? And I know that maybe if you deal more with the marketing references, Megan, so maybe Nitzan and Morgan can also answer about sales references and not talking to that same person too much.
Yeah, I think for sales and marketing, right, is the first thing to do is to track all of this, right? So tracking all of these requests is really important so that you're aware in general that this customer has been requested or has participated in numerous sales reference requests. I think one thing to really understand up front, especially if there's one of those customers that people always want to talk to, they may be one of those like really recognizable brands. So do you have a good relationship with that customer to help them, to set maybe SLAs for how many sales reference requests they'll participate in? So we actually have some agreements with those marquee customers to say, hey, will you participate in 10 sales references a quarter? And then that way, if they agree on 10 or 5, we know that's the limit and that's all that they're going to participate in. And then we have that agreement that, we won't go over that and they understand that. So 1, tracking. 2, maybe setting up agreements in places where you see a customer is beginning to get overused. And then you can be the protector and say, oh, sorry, team, we've actually reached our limit with this customer, but here's another really great example. So step 3 is having alternatives for those customers that may be getting overused, trying to find or suss out that alternative that also has maybe a similar use case product or something or other in that industry that would be a good match.
First of all, we're on time. So just to say again, thank you, Morgan from the San Francisco Bay Area, Nitzan in Israel, Megan, New York. Love this. We're going to take 2 more questions if you have time, but for all the people that can't stay any longer, we're going to send the recording. Thank you for participating and asking so many questions. We're going to answer all your questions as follow-up. So thank you again. We'll take 2 more questions and we'll end. So, and again, feel free, Nitzan and Morgan, to also answer any of you. So one question we have from Tyler is, have you dealt with customers that have fantastic success stories, but they have a no case study policy in their company? So have you found creative ways to still make those case studies appear, even though they have, a no share policy?
Yeah. I think one thing that we probably all do, what we try to avoid, is the anonymized case study or use case slide. Of course, that's an option. Top retail bank does XYZ, right? Of course, we all do that. And sometimes customers and prospects can almost guess at who that might be. So that's one option, right? An alternative option is finding maybe thought leadership opportunities for that customer where they don't have to dive specifically into the products or solutions that they may be using at your company, but a way for them to just talk about, this is what I think is important in the technology space or the retail space or XYZ, giving them a platform to speak publicly, almost supported by you on your behalf. And it may maybe begin to warm them up to be a public customer and maybe showcase the benefits. So those are 2 options. I'm sure you ladies have additional ones.
Anything to add, Morgan?
I was just going to kind of off of Megan, as speaking opportunities are a great way to highlight customers where it's not necessarily a case study. We have quite a handful of customers that can't necessarily do marketing engagements, but if it's a speaking opportunity where they're talking about their larger company initiatives, is much easier for them to get approvals, and then figuring out how you can record that session and share it on your website or share it on social to maybe it's not a written piece of collateral, but it's still definitely documenting that they are a customer of yours and they're really happy with the partnership that you have.
Right. I would add to that actually we've seen our customers also do where they build a case study that is not public, and I'll explain. They basically agree with the customer that they cannot share it publicly, but they can share it one-on-one. So what happens is that, for example, it's not like an official case study. It's not on your website. It's not anywhere public. But if I'm a software company and I need that specific case study, I can kind of relate to it and even show it one-on-one, not send it, not anything, but use it one-on-one. That's also something that we found customers do in that case. Last question that is very relevant for these COVID times from Michael. So thank you for asking that. He basically asks, are you finding that customer response rates and participations since COVID has changed? I mean, has it gone up? Has it gone down? Or that you still see references and customer stories and advocacy still, same pace as it was pre-COVID?
I think there was that time where maybe we all paused a little bit with co-marketing or asked our customers to be respectful. But then once we re-engaged, I really found that customers were just as, if not more open, as we maybe creating more digital events. Maybe executives are participating more in digital events than they would normally, where normally they would only do physical events. So I actually have seen an uptick in potential participation, and I think the uptick of digital, right? It used to be a secondhand thing, and now it's the thing, which it's just, there's less budget there. It's easier. There's no travel. So, here I am ready to go and speak at a webinar, which is the whole new world that we didn't really always consider before.
Okay. Actually, I will ask another question if it's okay by you. Anybody want to add on that regarding post-COVID?
I just wanted to say, yeah, we've seen a little pause at the beginning. Everyone was figuring out how to treat this new situation. This is another live example of why you need personal relationships. As soon as I have these people on LinkedIn, and some of them are in my WhatsApp even, they would respond to me, COVID or not COVID. This is a social net that you need to develop before something happens and before you need these people. When you need them, it's only too late. But if you do keep them warm and the personalized relationships, they will answer COVID or not COVID. So another point for the personal touch.
Okay. So hopefully last question, we still have more than 50 people online, so they're still happy to hear that. Jenny asked regarding sales, or how do you get the response from sales after the reference took place? So first of all, knowing that it took place, but more importantly, knowing that it influenced to close the deal. Do you have any way to track that? Silence.
So the issue here, right, is that it's a difficult thing to track. And a lot of the time it's that manual follow-up, right? So not super scalable. When it's a super high visibility opportunity, hundreds of millions, maybe everyone's got eyeballs on it. So yeah, if it influenced, and we'll celebrate that. But when it's on the scalable side, that's not super scalable. So that's something I know we're working towards improving, and I'm sure everyone's always looking to improve that.
I can only share that again, with CrowdVocate, for example, what we do is we automatically send an email to the salesperson. We send an email even to the reference, the person who gave the reference, and even the prospect. And we kind of do a survey to see if, and again, you can do that without automation also, but I mean, how did the call go? And at the end, we track closed one deal. So we basically can both see what people said about the call, and also did it influence a closed one deal, and match those two together to hopefully kind of predict that it was helpful to closing deals. Okay, I mean, there's more questions, but we're way over time. So I appreciate, again, Nitzan, Morgan, and Megan, your time, sharing all this data. We'll share the recording, we'll share the presentations, we'll share the Q&A questions and answer that we had. Everybody, thank you for participating so much. We appreciate it. You can keep questions going, and we'll try to answer them later on if you want to send those on email. And have a great Q4 with great references. Thank you very much.
Thank you. Thank you. Bye, everybody.
Bye-bye.